Ready?
1 second. Okay, I think, yeah, go ahead and start.
Awesome. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Tonight's candidate forum is brought to you by the East Bay Young Democrats, Latine Young Democrats, and South Alameda County Young Democrats. Yes, thank you. Rowena will be our moderator for the night. Lynn will be our timekeeper, and our EBYD president, Christina, will be checking the chat. So please, if you have any questions, make sure to use the chat. So really quick for the candidates, if you go over time by 5 seconds, at that point we'll mute you. So we understand we have some technical difficulties with the timer, but Lynn will be having this post-it notes to warn you. And just to give y'all an idea of what the format's going to be like, we're going to open it up with opening statements. Each candidate's going to have 90 seconds. After that, we'll move forward to Q&As from clubs and the audience. Again, candidates are going to have 60 seconds, and we're going to have about a handful of questions. And then we're going to move on to a Q&A from candidates. Candidates will get a chance to ask each other questions. So that'll be fun. And before I forget, voting process. For East Bay Young Democrat members, you will have the ability to vote in 3 races tonight: Alameda County District 3 Supervisor, California Assembly District 20, and California Senate District 10. Candidates from the 80-20 and SD10 races will have submitted candidate questionnaires and videos that will be linked in the chat. Links to vote in each race will be sent via email, and at the close of the forum, voting will also close at 9 p.m. tonight. Please use the hour after the forum to read through their statements and watch videos for the candidates. For Latine Young Democrats, make sure to check into our Slack. We will have our voting there. And then for South Alameda County Young Dems, expect to get an email with a poll shortly after the forum ends. So with that said, if I missed anything, please double check with your presidents to make sure you're in good standings. If you have any questions about that, utilize the chat. And then I believe that we can move on to our Q&A. So Rowena, why don't you take it away, but also audience, if you have questions, start typing them in the chat. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Victor, for going through the logistics of this forum. And so I want to first, start by, of course, welcoming everyone and, who are our candidates that are running for the Board of Supervisors race. And so here in our forum today, we have our Vice Mayor of the City of Oakland, at-large council member Rebecca Kaplan, as well as candidate Sirlene Grant, candidate Lena Tam, as well as candidate David Kakashiba. And so exactly as Victor mentioned, we will start first with opening statements. Just want to confirm that everyone is able to see our timekeeper, which her name on the screen is Lynn. Not sure if you want to switch that to timer, Lynn, but just confirming that everyone, just a thumbs up that everyone can see Lynn and the amazing post-it notes telling you when to stop and what time, how much time you have. Excellent. So to start off, we're going to start off with opening statements. And as mentioned, that will be about 90 seconds. And the flow of that, we're going to start with Sirlene, followed by David, followed by Rebecca, and then followed by Lena Tam. So Sirlene, you are up first.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to meet with you all. It's really exciting. So I have been involved in politics as a Democrat, a member of the Democratic Party since my youth and young adult years, starting, as probably many of you have, as a student organizer and standing up for rights of people and fighting against discrimination, participating in marches against racism and discrimination. Fast forward, I spent 10 years on the San Leandro City Council as the first person of color elected to this city, again, opening doors. And you all just went away. Did I stay with you? Okay. And I am running now for the Board of Supervisors because I want to make a difference and get through the bureaucracy and all give people access. I think our government, our local government has gotten to a point where people can't get the access that they need and the services that they need. So I want to help change the bureaucracy. I want to prepare our environment for the future using sustainable energy and refuel, and also make sure our buildings and our infrastructure runs efficiently. And I want to make sure that everyone has access to healthcare and mental health services. And that is not a crime if you don't wake up in your right mind one morning, that you do have an alternative for services. Thank you.
Excellent. And up next is David.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is David Kakisiba, running for Alameda County Supervisor, District 3. For the last 42 years, I've been working as the Executive Director of the East Bay Asian Youth Center. We work with about 2,500 young people every day. We are based in Oakland, San Antonio neighborhood. I also served 12 years on the Oakland Board of Education, 5 of those years as board president. Spent the first 6 years battling and getting ourselves out of state receivership and holding off developers from buying up a lot of school district property and closing schools. I've authored 2 local ballot measures, one with the city of Oakland, the other was with the Oakland Unified School District, successfully passed, both authored and co-led the campaigns for those efforts to dramatically expand funding for children's services and expand funding for our high schools in Oakland Unified. I started my work in electoral politics when I was 24 years old. I was running the precinct operations, the voter contact work for the Jesse Jackson for President campaign in 1984.
Thank you so much. And up next is Rebecca.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. I come here tonight to ask you to work together so that we can build a stronger, healthier, more sustainable, and more just future for our communities here in Alameda County. And I bring to this task my track record of successfully fighting for important changes that were seen as ahead of the curve at the time, but have since become widely accepted and an approach that we need to build on. In prior years, when I said we should send civilian crisis responders to 911 calls about mental health instead of going to an armed officer, many said that that was too radical, but we fought for it together with a grassroots community coalition, got the funding in the budget to launch the initial feasibility study, and now have the macro civilian crisis responders in Oakland. Similarly, we were fighting for marriage equality and justice for the LGBTQ community before it was cool, and wrote the first successful law in America to end the war on marijuana with a tax and regulate approach. We authored the law in Oakland to prohibit collusion with ICE and to prohibit tear gassing demonstrators. Now I seek your support to run for the County Board of Supervisors so we can strengthen public health and have community mental health instead of mass incarceration. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. And then up is Lena.
Good evening, East Bay Young Dems. I am Lena Tam. I am the current chair of the Alameda County Asian Pacific American Democratic Caucus, and I'm running for supervisor to improve county services for working families and also help provide a bilingual voice for a large and growing immigrant population, similar to the role that the late Supervisor Wilma Chan had. I want to address the issues of homelessness, housing, community safety, and healthcare, particularly mental health care access. I've worked in Oakland Chinatown for the past 30 years, at the East Bay Mud Building as an environmental engineer, ensuring a safe, healthy, and reliable water supply while protecting the Bay. I bring the lived experience of being the daughter of immigrant parents who relied on bilingual county health services. I have a proven track record of working collaboratively to address many of these county priority issues. As Vice Mayor of Alameda, I secured affordable housing and converted an old hotel into over 60 units of workforce housing. As president of the City of Alameda Healthcare District governing Alameda Hospital, we established an infusion center to meet with those with autoimmune needs, along with a women's health center to provide safe reproductive care, which is really critical now, given the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade. As chair of the Alameda County Planning Commission, I entitled 2,400 new housing units near transit to preserve open space and reduce traffic. I would be honored to earn your vote.
Excellent. Thank you so much to all the candidates for that very, brief snippet into your background. But we're grateful for that. And so now let's actually kind of dive deeper into some more specific questions. And so as we go into this question and answer, I do want to highlight that you'll only have about 60 seconds to answer these questions. So will definitely be important to be very precise. So the first question is, the current makeup of the Board of Supervisors suffers from a lack of diversity. How will you ensure that people with diverse perspectives and experiences in Alameda County are represented on the board? And so this go around, we will start with David, followed by Rebecca, followed by Lena, followed by Serlene. And you do need to unmute.
Okay, so for myself, my perspective on this is that the voices of working class families and rank and file residents in District 3 and throughout the county do not have much of a voice, let alone a presence on the Board of Supervisors. I come with that lived experience and that day-to-day working with residents that are served or serviced by the Alameda County bureaucracy. What we see in our communities is that the numbers of people that are living on the streets is growing, that the crime and violence is on the rise, and income inequality, the wealth gap, has dramatically widened here in Alameda County and throughout the Bay Area. And so bringing that voice is critical. We don't have much of that on the board right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And then of course, please let me know if you need me to repeat the question. And so up next is Rebecca.
Well, thank you so much. It is absolutely essential that we include, support, and promote all members of our community and all communities that make up Alameda County and beyond. Some of my personal track record fighting for this includes in the city of Oakland, fighting for the disparity study, the identification of dramatic underrepresentation of women and people of color in business opportunities, and as the lead author of the council proposal to adopt those recommendations and remedy those injustices and make sure that people of color own businesses, women own businesses, and employees are given equitable opportunity. I also have a personal track record of recruiting, hiring, promoting, endorsing, and campaigning for people of all backgrounds and ensuring a strong and diverse presence throughout our communities. And I would be honored to bring that to the Board of Supervisors, where if elected, I would be the first ever openly LGBT member of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors and the only woman now on the board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And up next is Lena.
I was the first Asian American woman to serve on the Alameda City Council, and I made sure I was not the last. And this lived experience, being a woman and being from the daughter of immigrant parents, are really part of bringing that policy process and making sure that that consideration and bringing that the relationships and the community knowledge is really critical to passing major policies that affect our community. And I had pushed for the diversity in the hiring of our public safety officers when I was on the city council, passed resolution condemning bullying and harassment of our BIPOC and LGBT community, and making sure that we have better policies to increase and build that sense of trust and belonging in a multiracial democracy. And I think I'm out of time, right, Celine?
Good timing. Okay, thank you so much. And then up next is Serlene.
Hi, so representing diversity on the council. So first, my presence there as a woman on the board. And then what I have done, proposed, is bringing about roundtables of community members to talk to when we're not in crisis. And this is something I have done and am doing now. I bring people together so that we can hear our diverse opinions and figure out what we want to do and how we want to move agendas forward. I do it monthly with Unity and Community, which is an organization in San Leandro to address racism and bigotry and hate-based violence. I do it quarterly with the Divided Community Project, which is a project that's based out of the Moretz School of Law out of the Ohio State University, where we have thought leaders coming together to look at police and public safety and the friction and the racial tension between a lot of communities. And I've done it most recently in Oakland and with the Howard Terminal Community Benefits process, where we brought in a variety of stakeholders to sit around the table to come up with a list of community benefits. I have other examples, but I'll stop.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And just as a reminder, if going over time, we will hit the mute button. So as we kind of go to the next question, which is in the wake of the COVID-19, whose response required significant city and county coordination, how, as a board of supervisor, will you encourage county staff to coordinate and collaborate with city agencies to meet the needs of Alameda County residents, specifically related to affordable housing and the current homelessness crisis? And of course, let me know if you want me to repeat that. And for this question, we will start with Rebecca, followed by Lena, followed by Serlene and David.
Well, thank you so much for this question. This is absolutely central to my motivation for running for county supervisor. The County Board of Supervisors oversees at the county level public health, the public hospital system, our community health clinics. And when COVID hit, there was a lack of coordination. And as a city official, I serve also on the Coliseum Authority Board. And when we were worried about vaccines not getting out to the community, I initiated for the city, the county, the state, and FEMA to work together to launch the nation's first large-scale COVID vaccination effort at the Coliseum, and to get the state and federal government to provide mobile vans to go to hard-hit and underserved communities and church parking lots. As supervisor, I would be fully committed to ensure city-county coordination and a joint powers operation to buy and manage hotels, dorms, and other buildings to house the homeless, and to open widespread public preventative health clinics throughout our community.
Thank you so much. Lena?
So the coordination is absolutely critical. In the city of Alameda, I had the opportunity of working with Supervisor Dave Brown, who is very supportive of my campaign. He worked through and trying to provide through the Home Key Project, quarantine housing for women and children that needed temporary shelter to quarantine from COVID. And moving forward, I think it's going to be even critical to work closely with the community-based organizations like the navigation centers that have a good track record getting the funding to these community-based organizations, making sure that the clinics are fully funded, because prevention is going to be very critical, and also making sure that we have adequate treatment and testing as we recover from the pandemic, and having the navigation centers provide the case management for housing and other support services. Thank you.
Thank you. And then up next, Serlene.
All right, so to ensure the delivery of services and coordination of services, I would bring together those people who are responsible, public health, city services, health services, but remove the titles and just have a goal of, if we need to implement a plan, a vaccination plan, isolation plan, whatever we need to do that. Now, when we come to the housing situation, I'm right now in recovery. I have a background in recovery and response of crisis management, earthquakes, fires. I've been through that. And we've done just that. Everybody come in and do what you need to do. With the housing crisis right now, with the lifting of the moratorium, I am afraid of what's going to happen with the homelessness when that happens. And I am suggesting that we have a county program that will help close the gap, the financial gaps that people may encounter when we get back.
Thank you so much. And up next, David.
Well, I think it's really super important to be really sober-minded on this. And that is the fact that the level of coordination is clearly ineffective. And in fact, there is open kind of a resistance to working together, not just between the city and the county, but also with local school districts, where I think the various systems left our public schools and our children and families very in a vulnerable situation. I think the first thing as a county supervisor is that we have to have and place in the work plan of the county administrator, and to hold the county administrator responsible for getting real results and pulling together a lead agency within the county. I think it should be the public health department to lead on a coordinated strategy around homeless reduction. I'll stop there. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Okay, and so the next question, I'm definitely very excited about. This question came from community that are a part of the District 3 area, the Havens Court community. And this was the question that they had. What is a concrete example of how you can ensure an equitable distribution of resources and services across the county? And what makes you uniquely qualified for this position? And so to start, it will go Lena, Serlene, David, followed by Rebecca.
I think we have to look at the data, and there was like a point in time data from 2019 on the resources that are needed to address the criticality of the homeless needs. For example, when you look at the need for rental assistance and shelter beds, there's a disproportionate amount of LGBTQ youth who are likely to experience homelessness more than others. The Black youth are also disproportionately represented in the homeless population, and they don't make up that much of the population. And recently, just last year, with a briefing from Supervisor Wilma Chan's staff, the county received a $6.6 million grant for youth homelessness programs, and making sure that they have an active role in helping to decide how that funding should be used and allocated. Having the people that are directly providing the services provide that input will be very critical. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Serlene?
Yes, so first I want to point out that what you all probably know, but just to emphasize the point that equity is not equality. And so that when we look at equity, we look at those that have versus those that don't have. And I worked on a nationally acclaimed model that the city of Oakland implemented for the capital improvement program, where we did just that. We looked at who was getting services and who hadn't gotten services for years. And we looked at who was getting money and what areas of town were getting money for different projects and who wasn't getting money. The results being that East Oakland saw street services and street repairs that they had not seen in years. And community projects in Chinatown that have been on the list for years got elevated to the top of the list. So there are scientific, quantifiable ways to look at equity and apply it to a need and a service.
Excellent. Thank you so much. David?
Yeah, and I'm just going to build off of Serlene's example. So it's about the County Board of Supervisors and requiring the county administrator's office and all agency heads to begin to do their planning and their budget development within the context of a racial and economic equity framework, using data to show where the needs are. Quite honestly, the politics is we're going to see great need in North County still, where the population were disproportionately impacted in Oakland, in East Oakland in particular. Therefore, in my opinion, greater investments, both in financial capital as well as human capital, has to take place. But the politics of the county is people don't want to do that. They want stuff in Pleasanton, they want stuff in Livermore, and there is not the kind of discipline, the political discipline to do this. And I will fight for that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So moving on to the next question. Oh, oops. Okay, Rebecca, you're next.
Well, thank you. Absolutely. I am fully committed to ensuring equitable distribution of county resources, and you can trust that I would be the candidate to do that because of my strong track record of fighting for it, even against powerful opposition. A few months ago, when the Oakland administration proposed to decimate Head Start programs, largely in African-American and Latinx communities, I helped lead the fight to stop the cuts to Head Start, to prevent those layoffs, and to prevent that inequitable loss of services. It also requires being willing to diagnose what is causing the inequity. Some inequity is caused by the use of complaint-based systems, where the neighborhoods with the most free time and privilege and computer access enter the most complaints, so then their neighborhoods get cleaned up. And that's why I've fought for geographic-based services. I also recognize that as county supervisors, we are the municipal government for the unincorporated area, and I would work to ensure we had special meetings in those areas so those community needs stop being ignored. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so I know I heard, I believe it was Lena, you mentioned a little bit about what we're doing on behalf of our young people in Alameda County. So this next question will be geared towards that. And it says, how will you prioritize investments in services for transitioned age youth, specifically around housing, employment, access to higher education, and mental health services? And so for this go around, we will start with Serlene, followed by David, followed by Rebecca, and then Lena.
This one hits me close. And I would need to see how they prioritize now, but I have a particular young person in my life that was, when COVID hit, had no place to go, and had been an aged out foster youth and wound up at my doorstep. And I was like, oh my God, you don't have a place to go. So we need to be able to have programs for young people so that they're not among the homeless count, that they can access services, that they can continue their education. And I just have to be honest, I don't know how it's prioritized now. I know that I would like to be able to keep them in the system, keep them going. I know the state increased some of their services so that they could continue at school, at universities for a little longer. So I would look at how we keep them benefiting a little longer.
Thank you so much. David?
I believe the County Board of Supervisors must establish a policy goal about seeing a reduction of young people or transitional age young people from entering into our criminal justice system and ending up living on the streets. It's not only the age, but it's for young people that are disconnected from education and disconnected from any type of employment. And so this is the arena in which being able to provide subsidized transitional employment programs and housing options and full service behavioral health and physical health, financial planning, college entry services has to target these young people for the county's government's self-interest that these young people do not enter into our system.
Thank you so much. And up next is Rebecca.
Thank you. Using incarceration as the answer to every question is destructive and wasteful and costly. We need to be providing community-based mental health in clinics in the neighborhood that is readily accessible. I will work to expand paid job training programs to recruit and train our next generation of mental health workers, hospital workers, in-home support services, construction, bus driving, all these important jobs that are having shortages. I will fight for paid training for transition-aged youth and others in need of these support services. I also recognize the vital need for housing, and that's part of why I've been fighting hard to buy buildings, including former dorms and hotels, where we can have private rooms with doors and keys and on-site staff and support services. Also, by using public land for public good to make sure that we are building significantly more affordable housing, including housing that is specifically set aside for our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lena.
So last year, Alameda County received, I mentioned earlier, a $6.6 million grant from the federal government for youth homelessness programs. And part of the grant requires that the youth take an active role in deciding how that money should be used. And what we have been hearing overall as a community, that the bulk of that fund should be used on new transitional housing, as well as new navigation services beyond the ones that we have, like with the Covenant House or some of the community-based organizations, to help people through the process of applying for housing, to getting the education they need, whether it's transportation, looking at jobs, and then moving them to a point where they become financially stable, because it's more than just getting them into temporary housing, but getting them to a point where they don't come back to needing temporary housing. So that part is going to be very important in prioritizing.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so now that we've kind of reached, halfway through the questions that we have, I do want to, encourage everyone that is, in the Zoom space to, submit any questions to the chat at this time. And then we hope to be able to ask some of those questions to the candidates. Okay, so the next question that we have is, let's see. There are a lot of vacancies on county boards and commissions. How will you work with young Dems across the Bay Area to help fill those vacancies? And so for this question, we will start with David, followed by Rebecca, followed by Lena, and then Serlene.
Working with the East Bay Young Dems, but I'll be also working with East Bay young people in general to be able to get more interest in serving on these different boards and commissions. I do think that many of these boards and commissions are not very friendly for particularly new people to civic governance. They could be very Byzantine. They could be very, very insider kind of deal, and not very welcoming of new people. And so there will be a need to also make sure that our various boards and commissions welcome the diversity of both experience and perspective and preparation. And so I look forward to working with you all to get qualified applicants as well as with other organizations.
Excellent. Thank you. And up next is Rebecca.
Well, thank you so much. And absolutely, I would welcome the opportunity to continue to work with all of you to help support people, not only to nominate wonderful, diverse young people to our boards and commissions, but to help with being able to succeed there, being able to have your voices truly heard there. I have helped write laws to require the inclusion of young people in boards and commissions, to reach out to people to help them get on those boards and to make sure that those board meetings were inclusive and welcoming. I've put my direct contact info in the chat, and anyone who's interested in pursuing serving on boards and commissions, please reach out, and I'm happy to go ahead and start that process right now and not wait for the election to help support people through that process. And I have worked over the years to recruit and encourage and nominate young people for these commissions. And I would be honored to continue to do that at the county, including requiring a respectful response so that people actually feel welcomed when they're serving there. Thank you.
Thank you. And then up next is Lena.
So this comes to active recruitment, and I would definitely consult with East Bay Young Dems and also with a lot of other groups that I've had the opportunity to participate with mentorship programs. Like I participated in Girls Inc., the American Association of University Women, APAPA. A lot of organizations have internship programs where I work. I actively work through what they call an eco-intern and recruit people from our college campuses and also our youth community so that they have an opportunity and that they are going to be prepared to serve in a civic role because having that background and having that perspective is really important overall for moving county policy in a direction that helps everyone, including the youth and the seniors that are going to benefit from that participation.
Excellent. Thank you. And Serlene.
Yes, so the easy answer is that we recruit, announce positions and promote positions and go out as a leader, as an elected, go out and even represent those positions that we want to fill. So I would work with the East Bay clubs, the social justice academies that are in the various high schools throughout the district. I started myself with youth in government, and I started a youth in government program in San Leandro, which unfortunately has filtered, but we could take youth in government programs. The universities and colleges all around us have clubs and groups that we can, again, recruit and go to and promote. And then there's mentoring and shadowing that I've done through the Bawapa Tile program. And even though I'm not an engineer, I've actually even worked with some of the engineering groups such as NSBE and some of the lawyer groups to get young people involved in policy making. And I would continue to do that.
Excellent. Thank you. And so I've received some amazing questions here in the chat. And so it actually, one of them I'm going to merge with the next one that I had kind of upcoming. So let's see. What is your relationship with the Latinx community and how will you collaborate with them, especially in the Fruitvale? And this question, we will start with Rebecca, Lena, Serlene, and then David.
Thank you very much. No, it's incredibly important, and Oakland is honored to be home to a large and thriving Latinx community, which I've had the pleasure to work with, not only as the Oakland at-large council member representing the whole city, but even prior to that as the AC Transit Board member, where I represented this entire area, and in fact, all of County District 3. That includes fighting for local employment opportunities to be protected in the Fruitvale, for pedestrian safety and a stronger transit village with affordable housing and with prioritization of that affordable housing for the local community. It also includes fighting against abuses that have been targeted against our Latinx community, including bringing the council directive to prohibit OPD from colluding with ICE, fighting against deportations and harassments of immigrants, fighting for language access laws in the city of Oakland, and for inclusion in business and hiring opportunity. And I would be honored to continue to fight for these needs at the countywide level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then Lena.
I've had the opportunity, even before the campaign, to meet with a number of leaders within the Fruitvale community and the Spanish-speaking Unity Council, and some of the staff that Supervisor Wilma Chan had. It's very important to have staff that is bilingual and that we have that constant communication. So the areas that I have seen has focused mainly on healthcare. Bilingual access is very important, making sure that there's outreach from La Clínica de la Raza that is expansive, and making sure that we have that collaboration with the county to have the adequate resources that they need, because there are unique needs that are specific to the Spanish-speaking Unity Council community and La Clínica that you may not have with other clinics. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Serlene.
Yes, so my relationship with the Latinx community is that I have worked with a number of the nonprofits, the community-based organizations, including the Unity Council, on different projects, planning projects, community development projects. But I'm not giving them shade, but I want to say that they are well-resourced and we all go there. When I know Chris Iglesias, Chris and I grew up in the professional world together. But there are other communities that in this county that need to be serviced as well. There are pockets of Latinx people out in the East County and Livermore that need attention and service. I've taken actions with ICE and ICE raids in San Leandro as well as in Redwood City. I do community meetings all over the Bay Area, all over the county, and I always make sure that we have a translator available. And I'm doing some work right now with the Tuberculio Vasquez Health Center.
Thank you. And lastly, David.
A few things. One is that in our nonprofit organization, close to 40% of our 2,500 youth membership is Latino, Latinx, and close to that around our staff, both full-time and part-time staff. That are, many of them live and born and raised in the San Antonio and Fruitvale neighborhoods and are Oakland Public School alumni. Work very closely with Oakland community organizations, St. Elizabeth's, St. Anthony's, parishes to deal with crime and safety issues, prostitution on East 14th Street, as well as around building the small schools movement, reducing overcrowding in the San Antonio, Fruitvale, and East Oakland corridor schools, so that also, well, let me just stop right there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And so I think I want to continue to merge some of these questions that we're getting from the audience here. And so another really good one, and it's, let's test your knowledge. What challenge facing Alameda County is most underappreciated, and what will you do to address it? So what is the most kind of the challenge that is impacting Alameda County, residents, and how will you address it? And so for this one, let's start with Lena, Serlene, David, and then Rebecca.
So one of the issues that I really want to work on with healthcare access is on mental health care access. There's a tremendous opportunity for the county to receive funding and to reimagine providing mental health services, because we're finding, as we saw with the situation at the jail, that there is a lack of resources, a lack of facilities. And when we're dealing with some of the homeless issues, we don't have the adequate resources to deal with the situation, even if we're able to train people to de-escalate. So it's going to be very important, I think, as a county, to make sure we get our fair share of the funding from the state, whether it's Proposition 63, and also making sure that we get the resources to the communities that are most in need.
Thank you. Serlene?
Okay, so the question being, what challenges or what things are underappreciated in Alameda County? So I'm going to take that to mean the things that we aren't talking a lot about. We're talking a lot about mental health, but what we aren't talking about are the infrastructure and the conditions of Alameda County buildings. And I promise you, it makes no sense to me that Eastmont Social Service Center had to close because there was rats and vermin in the building when we run the vector control and the public health department. And I think that something needs to be done. And what I propose is that we look at our buildings for their safe and healthy environment, and that we make smart buildings and clean buildings and use the new technology for our systems, our HVAC systems, and so forth and so on. So we might need to look at revamping, or at least restructuring something in our buildings to make them wholesome for our employees. We need to be a hallmark county. Our employees need to be safe when they work.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that feedback. And so up next, David.
Based on Serlene's interpretation, let me just, I'll throw this out.
Take your own, David, it's okay.
I think the issue is really about inside politics and outside politics. I think the county is an insider's game, and how you get elected, how long you stay a board of supervisor, it's all about the inside game, and the general public and constituencies that are most impacted, that are in great pain. In fact, many people are dying, that their voices and their experiences are not brought to the table. This work permeates just both with the elected officials and deeply permeates throughout the bureaucracy. That stranglehold, that orientation has to be broken. We need to make a breakthrough in that. That I think is incredibly underappreciated.
Thank you. And then up next is Rebecca.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm going to focus on things that have not been talked about a lot already. One is that COVID isn't over. If you're going to be in an indoor space with other people, please continue to wear a quality mask. And the county is going to need to step up more, both to deal with long COVID and to deal with efforts to reduce the spread of diseases in an ongoing way. Secondly, the job shortage of people to do needed jobs is being underappreciated. People talk about job training programs as if they're just social welfare programs for the recipient of the training, and don't recognize that we face a devastating shortage of nurses, of certain types of construction work where there's big shortages and then projects don't get done, of teachers and in-home support service workers. And so I would fight to dramatically expand job training and paid job training opportunities so that we can recruit and train our next generation to fill these vitally needed roles for our health and for our infrastructure. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for answering those questions. And so I think I have about 5 minutes before we transition into some of the questions that came from our candidates. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask a question that we really haven't touched on yet, and that has to do with our Alameda County jails. And so the question goes: Alameda County jails have come under fire the past few years due to poor conditions and lack of mental health support in the jails. So much so that a consent decree was issued by a federal judge. What do you see as the role of the Board of Supervisors in making sure the consent decree is followed? And how will you determine if conditions in the jails have improved? And so for this question, we will start first with Serlene, David, Rebecca, and then Lena. Oh, and I think you're on mute.
Sorry. That was a long question. So how to make sure that the consent decree is followed? There are a couple, we have to put ourselves in charge. We have to monitor and follow it. There are a couple of committees right now that have formed the Care First Jail Last Committee that's supposed to be looking at how to make the jail keep people out of jail so that they can get the help that they need, mental health services that they need without being incarcerated. We need to look at what the trend is, what the numbers are, what are they today and what are they next year, what are they next year. I personally think that 2 years is too long for the Care First Jail's last program, and shall I become supervisor, I would do something to expedite that program because I think it is essential to the welfare of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Independent oversight is critical for this task, and so establishing and onboarding the Sheriff's Oversight Board sooner than later is critical, and establishing an infrastructure for that board, meaning establishing the Office of Inspector General and having independent legal counsel reporting to the board. And then all of that work is funneling to the Board of Supervisors around budget development. Really, the bottom line is simply this: get it done. We are not going to do what happened in Oakland for a 20+ year court order, and it's under a federal monitor. That is intolerable. Just get the work done, or else there has to be some changes in personnel in order to get the job done.
Thank you. And up next is Rebecca.
So absolutely, what the court required is the bare minimum. And what the court required should be the floor, not the ceiling and not our aspiration. Absolutely, if the government is incarcerating someone, locking them up, they must provide them with the mental health services and physical health services that they may need while they're in the custody of the government. But my goal is to prevent people who need mental health support from being incarcerated in the first place, to provide mental health at a community clinic level in the community in accessible, culturally relatable, and language accessible forms so that you reach people before they get to that crisis point, to provide civilian crisis responders to 911 calls so that the first response to a mental health crisis isn't a badge and a gun, and to make sure that in our budget decisions, the Board of Supervisors is taking that into account. In the city of Oakland, we move special events and parking enforcement out of OPD. We're working to change how speeding and jaywalking are handled, and we need to do those things throughout the county to reduce who's getting locked up in the first place.
Thank you. And Lena.
Being mentally ill is not a crime, and so the consent decree has built-in monitoring and auditing, but that is a very bare minimum. And so in the long run, it's going to be important for the Board of Supervisors to work with the Sheriff's Office to ensure that law enforcement personnel are thoroughly trained. If an officer is accused of wrongdoing, I will insist that prosecution for that violation be adjudicated expeditiously so that we can instill confidence with our citizens. The county does not tolerate offensive violence in our law enforcement practice. And the cases have to be managed in a very timely way, and having that oversight that's required under AB 1185 will be important. I still have 15 seconds, sorry.
All right, thank you. And so now at this time, we are actually going to go ahead and transition into some of the questions that the candidates emailed us. And we have kind of carefully selected a handful of these, especially questions that have not, really been addressed. And so let's start first with this question here. So it says, if powerful billionaires were trying not to pay their taxes or their debts, putting taxpayer funds at risk, what would you do about it? And so this first question goes to David, Rebecca, Lena, and then Serlene. And you are on mute.
Could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. So it says, if powerful billionaires were trying not to pay their taxes or their debts, putting taxpayer funds at risk, what would you do about it?
You got to do what the government does to regular people. Okay, you got to take legal recourse. You got to take legal action, be aggressive about it, and get and if this is whether it's fines, it's taxes, it is debts owed to, in this case, county government. There are no free lunches, and you're just going to have to do what we have to do in order to get paid. That's simply it. There's no. It's pretty clear cut in my mind.
Excellent, thank you. And up next is Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I absolutely would be committed to fighting to protect the needs of our taxpayers. And I say that not just as something I would do, but as something I have done. And I gotta say, when the powerful San Francisco billionaires who happen to own the Golden State Warriors did actually threaten not to pay their bond debt, not to pay the $50 million that they owed to the taxpayers of Oakland and Alameda County, I was the one who said we should hire lawyers and go to court and fight them. And a lot of powerful people didn't want to fight them because they didn't want to piss off these powerful billionaires. But I managed to get the votes on the Coliseum Authority board. We hired the lawyers, we fought them, we won, they appealed, we won again, and we won a third time. And as a result, both Oakland and Alameda County are getting back tens of millions of dollars of vital needs. That's how we were able to save the fire stations and other vital public services in Oakland that the mayor had cut, was with the money we won because we did stand up, and I would continue to do so as supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lena?
I wouldn't do business with billionaires that are trying to take advantage of the county, particularly in having taxpayers fund things like a new stadium, for example. That has to be funded with private funds. And so I think it's going to be important that we look very carefully at whether or not we, for example, the county is looking at the enhanced infrastructure financing district associated with the potential for the Oakland A's to move to Howard Terminal. And we have to see whether those funds, the tax increments would actually be realized, and ensure that no public funds go into building a new stadium.
Thank you. And Serlene?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to say tongue in cheek, and I don't be, I was like, I would send Herbie Levy after them to collect those taxes. But I think that we should not give people, if people have a loophole, then we need to come around on the other side and find a string to tie that loophole tighter, and so that they can't do that. And if it's taking them to court, as Council Member Kaplan has done, then we take them to court, or we find another way to capitalize on their capitalization of the people. But I don't think that just because they are able to escape something that they should get out rent-free, for lack of a better word. Tax-free.
Excellent, thank you. All right, and so we are nearing kind of the end of the forum very soon. And so I'm really grateful for you all, just kind of trucking along with us with all of these, variety of questions. And so a few more. So the next one is, besides your work in public office, how has your career informed how you address issues? And what areas of expertise have you developed? And so first up on this one is Rebecca, Lena, Serlene, and then David.
Well, thank you. Besides my work as an elected official on AC Transit and the Oakland City Council, I worked prior to that as a state assembly legislative aide and as a lawyer, doing cases for tenants and workers who were suffering abuse and working at prisoner legal services, helping to fight against mass incarceration. My work in the state assembly office and in those legal cases has helped strengthen both my knowledge of and my tools for fighting against mass incarceration and against displacement. We now face a threat of an incredible tsunami of evictions, and we must take action both in terms of providing legal support and providing financial support to help prevent a wave of displacement of our communities. We also know that at the county level, the direction of funding toward mass incarceration and against basic public needs is a core problem that I would work to remedy. One of my first meetings at the County Board of Supervisors was 2 decades ago with the Ella Baker Center fighting against the proposed super jail for kids. We can build a healthier future than that.
Thank you. Okay, and up next is Lena.
I'm an environmental engineer by training, and so I tend to look at practical solutions. I don't make perfect be the enemy of the good, and that's a skill set that I bring as having been an elected official, the need to collaborate, to compromise, to get things done, to get housing built for seniors, for the youth, to get transit-oriented projects done. So as an engineer at East Bay Mud, I develop and prioritize making sure that we have water and sewer service for low-income housing, for example. I put in place climate resiliency and emergency action plans, and also making sure that we have an adequate water supply for the future. So having that skill set of understanding the dynamics and the legislation and the negotiation with the different agencies is going to be a skill set I can bring to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. And Serlene.
Yes, so I do a lot of work in collaboration, policy making, collaborative decision making, and bringing communities together. I've worked in all 14 cities of Alameda County. I do a lot of work in housing, transportation, and community development. Some of the projects that I've worked on, that the success of the project has come from my table, has been the Mandela Gateway housing project in West Oakland, and also the Cypress Freeway, that freeway exit that comes along and back from by the post office is a result of my working with the community to change Caltrans' mind on how Caltrans had designed that initially. I'm currently, one of my reasons I'm running right now is because I was working with a housing development project in the Fairview that was getting foreclosed upon, and they needed someone to fight the bureaucracy on their behalf. And we're about 5 days from the end of that foreclosure notice. Stay tuned.
Thank you. And David.
So, so my dad was a gardener. He retired when he was 83 years old. And my brother is a landscape, well, he retired as well. He's a landscaper. And I did a lot of work over the years and over many summers, both with my dad as well as with other commercial enterprises. It's brown collar work. I learned a lot about how people's attitudes towards working people who work with their hands, people who work with dirt. I saw a lot of attitudes about what they think is a prize, having a prize Japanese gardener over that of a Mexican gardener. And it is, you see the different attitudes that people have and not really seeing us as human beings with our own humanity, our own needs, our own aspirations. I bring that lens to the work every single day.
Thank you. And so kind of based on time, I think we're running about 5 minutes ahead of schedule. And so I would like to ask one of the questions from the audience. It's quite good. So it says, what's your plan on prioritizing multi-model accessibility throughout the county? And then in parentheses, it says biking, walking, scooters, etc. And so for this one, why don't we go with the flow that we just had, where it was Rebecca, Lena, Serlene, and then David.
Absolutely. Making sure that we have effective transportation plan for multimodal access is really essential. And the pedestrian safety is a real problem throughout our region, but particularly in Alameda County District 3, that I would be committed to fixing. I would serve on the Alameda County Transportation Commission and also work to bring resources from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and the county's own budget to ensure that we are providing protected bicycle lanes, to build on our success, putting in better crosswalks in places like Chinatown with better signals and better lighting. I would work to solve the disconnect between Oakland and Alameda, both ends of which are in this supervisor district, with a above ground bicycle pedestrian bridge and rebuilding the Broadway Jackson interchange to avoid creating pedestrian hazards. And finally, multimodal needs to include freight and making sure the rail crossings are safe and that the truck routes are put in a way that doesn't impede the health of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Lena?
I would also prioritize working on the Broadway Jackson interchange between Alameda and Oakland, and also making sure that there's going to be adequate funding for the new pedestrian and bike path, because that would take potentially 44,000 cars a year off of the roads. And that is an environmental justice issue that has plagued Oakland Chinatown for a long time, where you basically have thoroughfares going into Alameda or going from Alameda out to the freeway, and trying to address the pedestrian safety on a very large scale. But that project has been like almost more than 20 years in the making, and I think it's about time that we get that funding to a point where we can break ground rather than constantly planning it.
Thank you. And Serlene?
For several years, I worked for City of Oakland Public Works Department, and a few years ago, I was embedded in the OCDOT department. And just before COVID, I was working with Alameda County Public Works Department, and I worked on the Complete Streets projects and the Zero Vision projects. And the Complete Streets projects allow the design of streets for all the multimodal that you were referring to. The Hesperian Boulevard, Llewellyn Street, and East 14th Street improvements in the last couple of years pre-COVID, they kind of finished while COVID was happening and we were inside our homes. Between San Leandro and San Lorenzo are all projects I worked on. I worked with the community to help bring their design interests into the room so that the engineers could design it. I also worked with the bicycle pedestrian committees for the county. So I have that experience. I would bring that as a mandate, a countywide mandate, that the cities and ACTC and the county implement such programs.
Thank you. And David?
The bike pedestrian bridge, Alameda to Oakland, is a priority, top priority. Pedestrian safety is a huge priority for me. And there are multiple places throughout District 3 where that has to occur. That ranges from high traffic areas, like in Oakland along the Foothill corridor, where there are neighborhood schools and parks, and there's quite a number of accidents involving young children and mothers and grandparents, including a number of fatalities. There's also places in San Leandro where I've been walking, and there is the Complete Streets issue and crosswalks and other pedestrian safety amenities, I think is a high priority.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, and so it is that time where, we will invite, each one of the candidates to, do closing statements. And for the closing statement, I believe that it will also be 60 seconds. And then for closing statements, let's start with Lena first, followed by Rebecca, followed by David, and then Sirlene.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss our campaigns. To recap, I'm running for the county supervisor seat to address the issues of homelessness, housing, community safety, and mental health care access. I want to expand upon the late Wilma Chance Legacy Program, which takes a holistic approach to addressing county needs that's captured in things like the All-In program with collaborations across sectors within the community and within the county agency and departments. Over half of the county's budget of $3.6 billion is allocated to health and human services, with the remainder for law enforcement and general government. I have the depth and the breadth of experience in governance with my public service as president of the City of Alameda Healthcare District Board, the vice mayor of Alameda, and chair of the Alameda County Planning Commission, and as an environmental engineer at East Bay Mud. I would be honored to earn your support to protect our youth, our seniors, address the needs of our homeless, and expand healthcare. I'm honored to have the support of State Controller Betty Yee, State Treasurer Fiona Ma, County Assessor Fong Ra, and many other community leaders, and I would be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you so much. And up next is Rebecca.
Thank you so much for the time tonight, and please do stay in touch. I'd love to continue to work with all of you on building a stronger and healthier future for our communities. I'm asking for your vote for Alameda County Supervisor so that we can use the resources of the county to make sure we are housing the homeless, including using the hundreds of houses that the county sells every year at tax auction that could be preserved as affordable housing, using dorms and hotels, and coordinating county homeless services with the cities to better serve people, even as we act to save our hospitals and protect our public health. I'm honored to be endorsed by a wide range of people and groups, including 350 Bay Area Action, the California Nurses Association, the Democratic Party, Planned Parenthood, Supervisor Valle, School Board President Aguilar, statewide leaders like Malia Cohen and Delane Easton, and local council members like Gayo, Fife, Bass, Tao, and Assembly Member Sandre Swanson, and many others. I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And David.
Thank you again. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I look forward to a time when we can be in the physical presence of each other and to have a wide-ranging dialogue and debate about political issues and the landscape. As I mentioned, I first started my electoral experience running precincts for the Jesse Jackson for President campaign in 1984. The following year, then newly elected city council member Nancy Skinner appointed me to the Police Review Commission in the city of Berkeley. And 2 years after that, I ran for the Berkeley School Board as a 26, 27-year-old, not knowing what the hell I was doing, but very determined to bring the same kind of passion and the same kind of voice to families that are being not served and underserved by the Berkeley schools. I bring this now 35 years later. I have not changed. I am going to bring it to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Sirlene.
Yes, I appreciate the diversity of Alameda County. That's why I moved to this side of the bay. I grew up on the other side of the bay, and I wanted to remain a place for everyone. And so my career has been about opening doors and connecting communities and building communities. I want Alameda County to be a hallmark community. We have excellent care at the health centers with Highland Hospital, San Leandro Hospital, and Alameda Hospital. What we have is a frustrating bureaucracy, and that's called me to this position right now, that I want to get through this bureaucracy so people can get the attention and the services that they need. I want to work with healthcare, mental health, and public safety, but not just the sheriff, we kind of touched on that, but also for the employees, I touched on that we need to make the county a safe place for everyone, just like we need to have housing available for everyone. We need housing for those transitioning young people and teens, and we need housing for the seniors. We need housing for people who are just at the edge of not being able to stay at their housing, and we need housing that's affordable so people can get a foot up to get started. Thank you.
Excellent. And so thank you all. Thank you, David. Thank you, Vice Mayor Kaplan, Lena, and as well as Celine. Thank you so much for taking the time to kind of be in community with the various DEM clubs, young DEM clubs here in the East Bay. We greatly appreciate the time. And then also I want to thank everyone that helped put this forum together. Thank you so much, Celine, for, helping keep us on schedule with timekeeping. And, thank you, Ruben, for, helping get this communication out to all of our members. And just everyone really in this Zoom space. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend. And so really at this time, we will hang on the line to maybe answer any questions kind of related to membership. Of course, Victor, feel free to chime in if there's anything that you want to uplift kind of related to voting, etc. And then also Christina as well.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now, but thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.